This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, but rocking a beautiful Toronto background behind me, because I love Toronto and I consider that my true home. And hopefully, I'll make that my actual home here in the near future. But anyway, folks, speaking of Toronto, my guest is sitting there right now, making me beam with envy that I'm not there too. And I know he's going to tell us about the critters in his backyard too, because they're enjoying Toronto as well. Folks, he is the director of Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2. I've met him at Frightmare in the Falls, whether he was there as a guest or just there chit-chatting with other guests like Leslie Donaldson. Folks, I give you the awesome Bruce Pittman. How do you do, Bruce?
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I got a little bit of sleep when I got home this morning because I work overnights.
Right.
Yeah. Then I come on here. My cat's still sleeping though.
Oh, good.
He did not clean my apartment.
No.
That's another reason I got to show this beautiful Toronto background because, I cannot leave evidence that my cat doesn't clean. Do you have any pets inside or are yours just outside?
No, I just have the backyard critters, which usually at this time of the year they're estivating, which is a mild form of hibernation, and that's raccoons. But for the last 2 years, they seem to come out in winter. I've had them out every night. They're out on my porch, so it's very strange. I'm not sure what's going on with them, but yeah, lots of critters in the backyard.
You know what? Here's a story for you. Um, I cleaned my cat litter box out one night, and it was just before I was heading in to go to work for the evening. So the garbage was full, so I was taking the garbage out to the dumpster. This was poorly timed, but the side of the dumpster was open. And I just athletically, and I knew I'd get it in, but I aimed it and it went towards the opening. A raccoon jumped out and the bag blasted all over the raccoon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
They
yeah,
do they do dumpster dive.
yeah, well, this one smelled like my cat's litter. And I'm like, well, I told people, I said, I stopped a theft. A mask, um, some creature in a mask was coming out of our dumpster. It stopped it. We get raccoons all the time out there, and I remember one night I got home, or one morning I got home from work. I had some Tim Hortons food with me, and I had a muffin, and I just kind of opened my door just to make sure I didn't get the crumbs in the car, and I was eating it, and all of a sudden I could see these little feet underneath my door, and it startled me, and I closed the door. And then next thing I know, this raccoon's up the side of my car. I think he wanted some food.
Hmm.
He wasn't being vicious. So I'm like, oh, well.
No, they're very. I mean, they don't really like to be around humans much, but they're very gentle and you know, I basically said, you can't beat raccoons. I'll just join them. So I've made my backyard and my back porch available to them, and I've gotten to know generations of them, and they're just very intelligent and very sweet. And as a subsequence, they've done no damage to my house at all because I've heard that from other people. Well, they do a lot of damage. Well, they nothing. They just sort of come up and hang around my porch. So they're quite fun. I like going out there in summers, and they'll come up and bring the families up, and we have a nice evening on the porch. and they'll eat
Yeah.
practically everything. Anything that I've got to throw away does not. There's no waste. My compost box is never filled. They'll eat anything. And I put out, I'll finish off one of those barbecue chickens you buy, and I'll put out the whole carcass, and they eat it, bone and all. I'll look out in the morning and it's completely gone. And occasionally I've left leftover chicken fried rice, which has peas in it. And I've gone and left it in the little platter comes in the leftovers. I'll put it out in the porch. And the next morning, everything's gone except the peas are carefully piled at one corner. They pick the peas out and separate the peas
Wow.
from the rice and the chicken.
That
So
is interesting.
they're not huge vegetable eaters, but practically anything else, they'll clean up your scraps. So I quite like them. I just find them fascinating. So anyway,
You,
that's my critter stories.
you got skunks?
I haven't seen many skunks. They're around. I've smelled them occasionally, but not a lot. I've had the occasional possum come up. Uh,
I've never seen a possum. Do we really have possum here?
yeah, I've seen them come up on the porch. Not often, but unfortunately, they're not a very pleasant look. They're very docile, and they're not very pleasant looking. But I've seen them a couple of times come up on the porch, but they don't interact with the raccoons. They'll sort of look at each other, but they don't get together. Whereas neighborhood cats, I've seen cats and the raccoons sharing the food together. They don't seem to. But I mean, oh, raccoons, they'll kill your pets. I've never seen that. I've seen cats and raccoons together. So, uh,
I didn't know we had possum. But then again, I was surprised the first time I went to Toronto in 2017 when Lisa Langwa invited me for Horror-rama. I saw something I'd never seen before, and that was black squirrels. We've got red and gray squirrel here. We don't have black squirrel. So when I was in Toronto, I saw black squirrels all over the place. I said to Lisa, I thought it was a skunk and then it's like, oh, it's a black squirrel.
now
And
there's lots of black squirrels and sort of brown squirrels out in
yeah,
the backyard. Yeah, and Toronto's had a few coyotes are coming into the town from.
I've seen one coyote.
I've never seen one here, but my backyard is sort of it's raccoons can squeeze into the backyard, but no, coyotes can't
Yeah,
get.
I've seen one coyote. Uh, it was in a neighborhood area too. So seen one. And now I've not seen a moose. Now, if I travel to St. John or Moncton, nearby cities, you got the signs up, beware of moose, but I've never seen one. I don't want to either, really, not while I'm driving. Deer, we got all over the place, though.
Yeah.
Porcupines, you must get them in your backyard.
No, no,
No?
no porcupine. I haven't heard of porcupine sighting anywhere in Toronto, so
Oh, really?
I'm sure there have been, but few and far between.
Well, we got them here. Uh, and occasionally, if I'm in the right spot, and it's usually either here in Silverwood or towards the Mactaquac Dam, which is just outside town here, I could see foxes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's rare, but occasionally you see foxes. And I've seen a black bear once.
right,
Once. Yeah. Just crossing the road.
right.
He'd no notice of me, but yeah, and chipmunks occasionally, but more squirrels than chipmunk. But uh, I don't know. And of course, in the summer, we got garter snakes and occasionally you'll find salamanders, which are nice and colorful, but
Right.
not this time of year. But oh, tortoises are a rare sighting. I have seen them.
Right.
Yeah, tortoises are interesting sight. And bald eagle if you get a chance. I had bald eagle land on my car leaving work a few years, several years ago.
Yeah, no, I've seen eagles, and there's hawks there's
Mhm.
hawks in the neighborhood, and yeah, lot of birds and stuff. So yeah,
Well,
just
this one
look
here,
at your backyard. There's all kinds of
yeah,
stuff going on, and I'll look out and the light snow today. I'll go out and you'll see all kinds of critter tracks in the backyard of animals passing through and so forth.
yeah. No, I was driving home from when this was back when I worked at my family business, but I was driving home and I slowed down because I saw what I thought was a dog going through the trash at the foot of somebody's driveway. So I slowed down just in case it bolted in front of me. And suddenly it's up in the air and it's on the hood of my car. It was a bald eagle.
No, really.
Yeah, and I saw that like this like right in my windshield. And it looked at me for a minute and I struggled to get my camera out, which I wasn't fast enough because it flew up into a tree.
Right.
But that was an encounter. That was interesting.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So, but anyway, no, I miss Toronto. I love Toronto. I think about Toronto a lot, so um I hope at one some point I get moved there. Everybody here seems to like to tell me, and Lisa's asked the question, have these people ever lived in Toronto? No, they haven't. But they keep telling me how violent Toronto is and the crime and this and that, and I I've never encountered any crime anytime I was there. And
Well, it's a city of like 3 million plus. So yeah, there's crime. I mean, I haven't encountered it, but there's been crime in the neighborhood, serious crime in that.
Mhm.
But, no, I've never, yeah, I've lived here all my life, and I've never really had any problems that way. I wouldn't say it's a violent city at all.
No.
Yeah, there is crime. I mean, you do have to be careful, but yeah, I've never considered it to be a problem.
Well, I've been around Toronto by myself, and I love the theater experiences, I love the fact if I moved there, I wouldn't have to have a car.
Hmm.
Here we have to wait half hour for a bus. Not in
Well,
Toronto.
Toronto's transit system is not the greatest. It's deteriorated, although they keep saying they're making improvements, but they keep closing things down to make these improvements. So
I
it's
see
there's a
the
lot of complaints.
updates.
Yeah, the updates. Well, that we got to close this branch for 3 months until we get it upgraded. Well, yeah, and what do we do in the meantime? So yeah, there's big transit problems here in Toronto.
Yeah, but no, I love it. And of course, Lisa taught me all about that. So I get off the plane in Toronto and I know right where I'm going. So I'm happy about that, you know. Yeah, next time I'm up at me, you and Lisa should grab dinner again, like we did after Horror-rama.
All right, yeah.
That was
Yeah.
fun.
I think they're gonna remount Horror-rama, but I think they're planning on going out to Oakville or Burlington, something like that. I heard mention of that anyway, because they haven't had it in a couple of years now. So, but I did go to Frightmare in whenever it was, last October,
Oh,
whatever,
did you? You were there?
Niagara Falls. Yeah, I just dropped by for a little while.
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time there, but sort of went in and did a quick tour and said hello to a bunch of people. And
They should book you there.
well, whatever. I'm
Well,
available.
you know what? I know one of the promoters. I could definitely bring you up.
Sure, no, I wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah, because I remember I mentioned, I mean, I'm not a booking agent, but I've had guests ask me if they could get me into Horror-rama. And the best I could do is bring it up to James Ponce, who I've had on here a couple times. And And I remember Lisa did it one year, so did Eileen Dietz from The Exorcist, and they were both based on my recommendation, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yep. So
The only one I've been to in the last little while was one was Horror-rama, but I got a call from a guy in Chicago, and he said they're setting up a drive-in massacre. And I said, "Well, that sounds interesting. What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, they're going to show horror movies for a whole weekend at the drive-in. They're calling it drive-in massacre." And I said, "Well, it's interesting, but I didn't really want to go to Chicago." And then he said, "No, no, no. It's not in Chicago, but we'd love to fly you down and be our guest for a couple of days because we're going to show Hello, Mary Lou Prom Night 2 as one of the films." And I said, "Well, where is it?" He said, "Shelbyville, Indiana." I said, "I'm in." I like that idea. So, yeah, they flew me down to Cincinnati, picked me up, drove me up to Shelbyville, and it was a great weekend. It was just great fun, and the drive-in was packed. Everyone there to see it. The people were really nice, and it was close enough to Indianapolis, and they were nice enough to drive me up in Indianapolis. I wanted to see two things, three things actually. The Kurt Vonnegut Museum, John Dillinger's grave, and John Dillinger's boyhood home, which is in Mooresville, a little outside of Indianapolis. So, yeah, it was a great weekend. Had a lot of fun.
yeah. Well, I did my first convention in the States last April because Lisa had phoned me and told me she got booked at Chiller in New Jersey. And
Oh,
I was familiar with Chiller. And at the time I had a retina issue with my eye and I had retina operation. And so I needed the bubble to deteriorate. And luckily it was gone by the time the event happened. So I went to New Jersey and met Lisa there and did Chiller. That was interesting, you know. I didn't like waiting in immigration, mind you. That was a long time, but nonetheless, I had a good time at the event, and uh, and I ran into Louis Serez at Frightmare in the Falls. He had suspect video vendor set up, and he said to me that they would like to do uh, Horror-rama again. So I'm gonna wait and see what kind of guests they get. They usually get some really good niche guest in
yeah.
and see how that goes.
Yeah, that was a fun event. I think I went a couple of years, one just to visit, and then one they had me set up. Uh, they had the original Mary Lou there. Sorry,
Yeah.
her name escapes me at the moment.
Lisa Shiraj, I reached out for an
Oh yeah,
interview with her and she turned me down. I was very upset about that. So anyway, needless to say, I I've been to Horror-rama 4 times and I've been to Frightmare in the Falls 4 times. And normally, what I do for Frightmare in the Falls, I rent a car. Lisa drives, and but I rent the car, and I book us each separate rooms for a hotel. And sometimes, you know, she'll drop into Frightmare in the Falls like yourself. And she was studying an acting script there that weekend. She dropped in for a moment to see the Blood Opera folks, but she was studying a script and whatnot, so she had kept herself busy. But, I went and met some guests and had some fun, but I might do Fan Expo this year because last year, although we canceled, I'm hoping they bring him back. I would love, they had John Cleese scheduled. I would love to meet John Cleese.
yeah.
He canceled due to work situation, but I gotta see what Fan Expo is all about because they look like they had a really good guest load there. So we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
Horror-rama, that's where I met Ali Chappell, was it?
It's where I
Horror-rama.
met Ali Chappell. I remember in 2017 when Lisa invited me the first time. That was my first time ever traveling like that. First time on a plane. And for somebody who would get homesick going to Moncton or St. John, it amazed me that I didn't want to leave Toronto.
Mhm.
I loved it.
Right.
And Lisa schooled me on the subways and streetcars and stuff like that. And anyway, I remember she and Leslie were both booked at the 2017 one. And I didn't think anything of it at the time, but you were sitting there with Leslie at the time. And that was how we initially met, but I didn't know who you were.
Right, right.
Yeah. And and then you got booked for the 2018 one. Or no, 2000
Yeah, I
or
forget.
2019 one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So now you're on here for your third time. So
yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
yeah.
It's out in Burlington. It's a fair way. But anyway,
Yeah.
and
But
Allie's been great because I've used her as a photographic assistant on a couple of shoots I've done, and she's just been wonderful. Uh,
I remember the first time meeting Allie. She was at the snack and coffee vendor at Horror-rama.
was right, yeah. That's
Yep.
right. I met her at the getting a snack and coffee, and
Yep.
yeah,
I've had her on here once. I'd like to get her back on here, especially to talk about what we're about to talk about. Number one, I think she's gorgeous. She's beautiful.
yeah,
But
no, lovely lady, yeah, and a real
mhm.
go-getter too. She's wonderful.
Well, I've got a couple of Chris Alexander's movies here. Um, Girl with a Straight Razor and Space Vampire. And oh, I got Necropolis Legion, so I got to see Allie in those, you know. So I'm interested to see what else she does. It's interesting that she's going behind the scenes and doing some stuff too. But uh, but yeah, she has got a documentary project out uh, about I'm guessing Canadian film. Would you like to give me the background on that? Because I know you're
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of
I
it.
think it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it came about a bit of a story here, but anyway, Richard Flower, who is an old assistant director friend of mine, we worked together back in the 80s. He moved out to Vancouver, so we didn't work together much. But when he's in town, we'll get together and compare notes and reminisce and so forth. And a year ago, November, we got together and, we're talking about, various people that have passed away that we worked with and that. And we both sort of simultaneously came up with this idea of like, well, why don't we just do a bit of a reunion, get these people together so we're not, going like, oh, I haven't seen that guy in years and too bad, now he's gone, blah, blah, blah. Why don't we just put together a reunion? So last May, I uh, I managed to get, I rented a Legion Hall, got some food. Legion Hall had a bar where they had cheap drinks and so forth. And I just invited a pile of film people that I worked with, sent out invites. And it was basically called Still Standing, and inviting people that worked in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. It was sort of like you had to be over 65 to get invited.
How would you get in there then?
Easily. Anyway, anyway, the turnout was great, and it was just a fabulous evening. And I sort of wanted to get it documented, so I said to Ali, "Why don't you come along, bring a camera? I'll pay you. You can photograph the whole thing and take some film and so forth." And And I think she was really inspired to meet all these people, everyone from Art Hindle to Sarah Botsford, to people that were in Airwolf, directors, um, cameramen. I mean, it was wonderful. It was about 65, 70 people showed up. And she's taking pictures and meeting all these people. And then she came to me, I guess about 3 months ago, and said she wanted to do a documentary about me. And I said, well, nobody's going to be interested. Uh, you'd have a hard time selling it. But I said there is a real need for doing, a documentary that documents Canadian film history because it's not really been done on film. And so a lot of these people, they're getting older and they go way back from the origins of the modern Canadian film. And, I've got the list from the reunion we did, start interviewing these people. And so that's what she's doing at the moment is going around and setting up interviews. She's ostensibly said she's doing a documentary about me, but I said, well, when you talk to them, yeah, and some of these people I haven't worked with or even talked to in 30 years, but find out, get their stories as well. So use me as a pretext, get their stories, and you'll have a fairly interesting film with some pretty good people in it. And everyone's been very good agreeing to it. Michael Ironside, who I hadn't seen in 35 years, and he grew up one street from me on Pape Avenue, and he happened to be coming to town. He said, well, why don't we do the interview at Bruce's place? So he came over. It was nice to see him again, and Ali set up, went upstairs. They did the interview with him, and I think it was about an hour-long interview. So hopefully they got some good stories about, what it's like to be a Canadian actor and the pull to go to the States and all of that stuff. So hopefully she'll gather together some good material about our industry, which would be fabulous. So, and I think she's a really good filmmaker too.
I don't doubt it. I could probably connect her with Paul Lynch, who directed the first Prom Night.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because he lives in Los Angeles right now. But I remember I connected him with Blood Opera when Blood Opera was doing something,
oh yeah.
and he was totally open to that. I've had Paul Lynch on here 3 times. He'd more than likely be open to talk to Ali.
Yeah, no, there's lots of people, and as I say, they're getting older. Now's the time to do it.
Yeah,
Uh, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she comes up with.
yeah.
I haven't done my interview yet, so
Well, I saw a picture that she took of you and Leslie.
yeah, she Leslie Donaldson they did that interview here as well. So it was nice to see Leslie again. She was looking very good, and they
Hmm.
did that interview here. So, and I just sort of, they said, "You want to sit in on the interview?" I said, "No." Uh, So anyway, it was nice to see Leslie and get a picture taken and so forth.
I hope she approaches Lisa. I'm sure Lisa would do it.
Yeah, I'm sure she would too. So we'll see.
Yeah. There's some others too. Cindy Hines from The Brood.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's just not the horror films that it's not the whole Canadian film industry, all aspects.
yeah. Uh,
And then of course she's got I think she's used these first interviews uh putting together a demo reel to go raise money to finish it. So we'll see how that goes.
yeah.
Always
Oh, I know quite a
hard to
few
raise
people.
money to do it.
Yeah. I could probably connect her to a few people. Not that she would need my help, but yeah. Wow. Yeah, I've seen photos of her online embarking on this and I'm not surprised that because I've seen her do acting, but I'm not surprised she's venturing into this too, because I was there with Lisa the night that she interviewed you on stage there before the screening of Hello, Mary Lou. I think it
Oh, right.
was, yeah, back, I think it was 2019.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that was, but yeah,
Yeah,
that was a fun night, and I met a few people who showed up in Shelbyville. Actually, there's a there was a guy that drove up for that screening, and it was his print of the film they were using. So and they used his print down in Shelbyville, so there he was again. So
yeah. No, Allie's very talented. I wish her the best. Very classy. Always dresses up at the Horror-rama event. She is awesome. So I wish her the best of luck, and I hope she continues to act too, because well, the camera loves her.
mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the film is about, or documentary is about Canadian film. You know, I have a lot of memories. I've had a lot of people on here from Canadian film or Canadian music, and growing up I got a lot of memories. I was telling a local radio DJ I've had on here a few times. I said, I don't remember many compilation albums for music, but I remember Electric North so well. I remember that one. I remember most every song that was on it, and he remembered that album. And I actually had a few people from some of the bands on here, but it's Canada has a wonderful array of talent that sometimes I don't know if it gets noticed the way it should, or when it does get noticed, it gets noticed when it's down in the States. Like, I mean, Ryan Reynolds, for example, is Canadian, but that's kind of an afterthought when you think of all the American films he's doing.
Well, the thing of it was, and it's always been the biggest problem with Canadian film was that unlike practically every other country in the world, the government hasn't mandated that theaters show a certain percentage of Canadian product. France theaters must show French films. They can show American films, but you have to have a quota that they have to meet of showing French films. And that promoted the industry there in every single country that has this program going. Canada never did that. They had a chance in the late 60s, early 70s when they opened up telefilm. So we've got a country where, yeah, a lot of films, a lot of talented filmmakers are making films. They've got nowhere to show them. It's just, Canadian networks will buy to show a film will pay $5,000. That won't pay for a film. So there's nowhere to show films. Now with the music industry, there was a great hue and cry. They came out and said, you have to play 50% of the music on radio has to be Canadian. And there was a huge hue and cry. Oh, we'll lose audiences and da 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 da. And out of that came Neil Young, Gordon Lightfoot, Robbie Robertson, the band, all of those people suddenly were getting their music played. And guess what? Audiences love the stuff. And that created a vibrant Canadian film music industry that was Canadian and it was done here. They've never done that for films, and it would be so easy to do. Now with streaming and theaters and that that opportunity is gone now. So again, you have people making films in Canada, and I've heard of some, oh, there's this film, there's this film, there's this film. Where can I see it? You really have to search to find these things. And the money that they would make off of streaming is negligible. It
Y-
won't pay to make
You
film.
know what? I believe. that number one, my TV setup, it's not, I don't watch television. I just watch my Blu-rays, you know. But I believe that film should have at least a 90-day window before it goes to streaming. 90 days, 3 months,
Well,
you know.
that's dead. Theaters are dying, and it's the
Oh,
theaters.
I hope
The
not.
theaters. It's the theaters' fault. They didn't get on top of this, and they let streaming go. Now people are watching movies, first run movies, on a screen as big as their hand because it's on their phone. Uh, and how the money from that gets back to the people that made the film, it's a very long line, and there's a lot of people taking money along the way. Very little goes back to the people that make them. So it's basically, yeah, you have to be a major Hollywood studio to really get your film out there. And for years, showing movies in theaters was a lost leader. When they started making VHS and DVDs and Blu-rays, that's made more money for the studios than showing the movie in the theater. But those sales were promoted by showing the movie in a theater. So when the movie went to the theater, it got well known. The titles were well known. And then after a period of time, 6 months it was at some point, they were released on DVD. And that's where they made their real money. Now with streaming coming along, the only people that make money on that are the platforms and Netflix.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't like that at all.
and it's like Netflix will make a film, couple of films that I'd love to have on DVD. Netflix will not release those movies on DVD or Blu-ray. You have to subscribe to Netflix to see them. So any movie that's been made by Netflix, and they've done some good films, are not available on DVD. The only one, and I did pick it up, was The Irishman. That's the only film that I know of that Netflix has released on a DVD. Uh, they had Orson Welles' film, The Other Side of the Wind, which they put on, which was terrific. I always wanted to see that film, and they got sort of a finished version of it. Never been released on DVD, which I would certainly buy. So I don't know the state of the industry now, but I just know that filmmakers, it's great opportunity to make films because everyone has access to the hardware and software that can make a professional film that can show anywhere. It's not that expensive. You can get a camera for $500 and the image it puts out can be shown in theaters, except there's no theaters that will show it. So there's lots of films being made, nowhere to see Canadian films, which is really unfortunate.
I try to see I and I didn't even know this was coming out, but I saw the last Trailer Park Boys movie, Standing on the Shoulders of Kitties, which came out here at Christmas time. Billy Bob Thornton was in it, and I love the Trailer Park Boys, so I went and saw that. But there was another film. I I'm gonna butcher the name because I don't remember. I think it was called The Drive Back or something. Um, it was about a road trip between Fredericton, of all places, and Toronto, and it had Alan Cumming in it. And I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. I'm gonna go see this. You know, and there's a lot of times I'll go to movies without even knowing what it's about because I find that's where the surprise is. You know, so uh, I'll tell you one thing. I love the theater experience in Toronto. Like we got a 10 screener here, you know, but in Toronto, when I was there back in October, I went to the Varsity. I saw Nora there. I spent a lot of time at the Carlton Theater. They had a lot of movies on there for $5. And boy, my mom asked me if I was going to hitch a bed there. So I felt like it, but I mean, for $5, I mean, I saw the original Halloween, I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show, The Exorcist, Clue I saw for the first time. They're playing, and then before I left, I saw Full Metal Jacket down there, and I was like, I'm loving this. I went there a lot. I went to went down to Dundas there, handy to the Eaton Center, to go to the 10th anniversary of It Follows. And I went inside there, I got my ticket. It said Theater 14. And I was like, I've never been to a theater that had 14 theaters. Come to find out, 14 was nothing. There was 24 theaters in there. And I
Unfortunately,
was, oh,
unfortunately,
wow.
that those theaters that when they went into multiplexes, it killed theaters because the big screen experience disappeared. There's no reason to go to a small theater, pay that kind of money when you've got large screen TV in your living room. The screens in your living room are about almost as big as the ones in those tiny screening things. Going to movies back when I was growing up, there was all kinds of huge screen theaters. There was the Imperial Theater, 3,000 seat theater with a huge screen, the Glendale, where I saw Space Odyssey on a giant curved screen, the Tivoli, the Uptown, the University, the Eglinton, the Norristown, the Fine Arts Theater. They're all gone now. The experiences when they started saying, well, we could subdivide these theaters, take away the loge and make a theater upstairs and a theater downstairs. So the actual experience of going into the theater became unimportant. It was like, well, we can get two movies playing and really pack them in there. Uh, okay, yeah. So, and that was a thin end of the wedge of people saying, I've got a 6 foot TV screen at home. So, in terms of my vision, I can get a seat where it's the same as going to a small screening, one of these small theaters. So, the experience going to theaters disappeared with that. Uh, and I think that really hurt theater owners. I mean, they may have made money for a little while, but I don't know. I don't know. And there is a few theaters in the States. There's a couple of guys that are building and renovating old theaters to give the old time movie experience where the theater end is just as important as the movie they're showing. And there's a few people doing that, but I think by and large, in the era we're living in, it's all streaming. People don't want to leave their homes. They can, you know.
I
So
love going to the theater at least once a week. I like going to the theater. But when I was in Toronto, I was at a movie, except when I was at Frightmare in the Falls, I was at a movie pretty much every night. You know, Lisa introduced me to the TIFF Lightbox.
yeah,
And
that's
yeah, we saw Eileen there with Anne Hathaway last, or no, the previous year. Last year, I went and saw a movie there called Rumors, which I didn't know was a Canadian film, and I enjoyed that. I saw the advertisements for it. We, of course, didn't get it here, but I enjoyed that. And there's all these different theaters there in Toronto, and I was just basking in it. I filmed some video of me at these theaters, not inside the theater, but just talking documentary style into my uh, phone and just showcasing this is experience here in Toronto and basically praising the experience. And but I try to go once a week to the theater, but mostly either working or sleeping or occasionally doing this. And so I can't get there any more than once a week, but
The
you know.
last movie I saw in theater was Oppenheimer, and the only reason I went to the theater was uh, because it was in IMAX, and I wanted to see it the way it was intended to be seen. It was shot on IMAX. Okay, I'll go see it on IMAX. Before that, rarely have I gone to a theater. The last regular theater I went to was in 1999.
Good
I,
year for movies.
I went to the first screening of Eyes Wide Shut.
Ah, I did an
It
interview from
was in
that.
the afternoon, and it was the first showing of the first day. The print had scratches. I sat for 10 minutes, got up and left. I said, how in God's name can you? They didn't really care. There was no projectionist. It was an automatic projector. And obviously, it was scratching the film before it went through the gate. And I went, that's it for me. And after that, maybe four times I've gone to a movie theater to see a movie. I said, I'm fed up. Theater owners don't really care about projection. They've got automatic projectors. There's nobody there to run them. And even in the years before that, the sound would be too loud or too soft. And I know they worried about, well, we have to pay the projection so much. Well, yeah, that's the guy in charge of making sure your show shows properly. Uh, and they didn't seem to care anymore. And I said, well, that's it. You lost me as a customer. And boy, I was one avid film goer. Uh,
I saw Eyes Wide Shut when it came out in 1999 in the theater, and I've got it here on Blu-ray. I've interviewed one of the actors from it. She's been on here twice, and I loved Eyes Wide Shut. 1999 was a really great year for movies. I That was one of my most memorable film going years. But uh, I've been to IMAX once, and that was in Toronto. And I saw Apocalypse Now in IMAX, and that was great, you know.
yeah, it's like they'll do that. They say it's in IMAX, but no, it wasn't photographed in IMAX. They merely took a 35 mil print and blew it up to IMAX. That's not IMAX. That'd be like blowing up 16 millimeter to 35 and saying, oh, it's a 35. No, it's not. It's what was it originally shot on. Apocalypse Now was shot 185 35 millimeter film, and it looked great. No reason to blow it up. They blew it up to 70 millimeter and then the IMAX and all that. But no, originally it's 35 millimeter. What I'm really happy to see is on some of the DVDs and Blu-rays, they're doing great restoration work on old films.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've got a copy of Eyes Wide Shut that is visually far superior to what I saw in the movie theater when the day it opened. So that I'm grateful for, but they're trying to phase out DVDs and Blu-rays, and I don't know why they're doing that. I think these large companies that run streaming want you have to pay 18 bucks a month to him, $9 a month to him, and then you can see all your movies with a total thing of subscriptions for like it'd be like 75 bucks would probably buy you subscriptions. And that's the only place you'll get to see your movie. And I don't particularly like that. I mean,
I
I've
don't
got
either.
my movie collection. I like the extras on the end of DVDs, the making of. I love all that stuff. Um, but they seem to be phasing that out. And I don't know why, because I don't mind paying $25 to own the movie, to have my own copy. It's like when they got rid of vinyl records and CDs came in. Now, guess what? Vinyl's coming back. Why? Because it's better.
Mhm.
So, and people love the albums, the covers. It's like I say, the theater going into a movie, the theater experience was as much importance as the movie itself. Well, with records, it was like the record you'd open up, might be open up and have notes or inserts, or the album itself was as important as the vinyl record inside. And they took that away with CDs. Of course, I'm happy to see it's coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got some vinyls here. You know, the woman that was uh saved from overdose at the beginning of Eyes Wide Shut, the party, I've had her on my show a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about that movie. She was awesome. Julian Davis. I don't know anything about the IMAX experience, but I went to Apocalypse Now and I just went to it because, well, I think it's the best war movie I've ever seen, and the Vietnam ones in particular have that nice jungle atmosphere in them. So I've always preferred those to the World War movies. So anyway. I was happy to see Apocalypse. I've seen Apocalypse Now a couple times on the big screen, so
Yeah. And
always loved that movie.
Francis Coppola keeps coming out with new versions. I think he had the original version and then Apocalypse Now Ray Do, where he included all the scenes that were originally cut out. And then he came out with Apocalypse Now, the director's cut, which
Kind of like Ridley Scott with Blade Runner.
he's basically took out scenes that he put back in, which I thought, well, that's strange. Anyway, but I've got copies of each of them. So.
Yeah, I've got a big collection of Blu-rays here, so I like to own them too. And I'm really not interested in streaming. Like I said, my TV's set up to watch my Blu-rays. Like I'm not interested in streaming. So one of the things I loved about Toronto, there was enough theaters around that anything I wanted to see that we didn't get here, I
Yeah.
could see there. I did like that.
Well, the nice thing with theaters is a lot of them are now showing much older films.
Hmm.
They're bringing older films back, which is great because most of the theaters now are set up to run either DVD or Blu-rays. They can project those. So I thought that was a good sign where theaters will, start showing much older films.
The
So,
Carlton does that.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Oh boy, did I love that. I enjoyed that. So I still have an experience with these movies at these theaters. But it was but we haven't had a drive-in uh here in Fredericton since the mid 80s. So um we used to I saw the Star Wars trilogy at the drive-in here, for example, and I
Right.
remember that well. Yeah. But yeah, Lisa introduced me to a lot of stuff like this in Toronto, and I was like, why wouldn't I want to move there? I think Toronto is awesome. But
Hmm.
yeah. But no, I agree. I think that Canadian film needs to make a research. I actually agree with you. I think there should be a thing about playing a certain amount of Canadian film. I agree with that.
They had it on TV for a while that TV was mandated to show Canadian content. And there was a huge pile of really good TV came out of that was Canadian TV. And then when Harper came in, the Conservatives, they said, well, that's not fair. The TV should be able to operate freely without government coming in to do anything. So now what you've got is there's none of the networks have any kind of dramatic TV production going on. Very little of it's going on. That sort of disappeared, which hurts the industry. So, it's no wonder that a lot of people here They go into the States not because they want to. It's like if you want to work in that business, you have to. It's where you go where the jobs are. And it makes life very difficult. I mean, being an actor in this country or anybody in the film industry, it's very, very difficult to make a living at it.
Yeah, yeah. But nonetheless,
We basically Canada is a branch plant for the Americans. The
yeah, that's a problem.
only productions that are happening in Toronto are American productions coming up here, and they only come up here for one reason, and that's because we have a low dollar. And our industry is hinged on that. Now, when they come up, they bring all the lead cast. So Canadians are stuck with minor supporting roles. They bring up their own directors, their own art directors, their own production designers, all the key people. They're basically American productions here, and they'll hire crews and supporting people and so forth, and and do their projects here. But they don't care about the crews. They don't care how talented the crews are here or how much experience they have. It's because they're cheaper. Now, if our dollar went up, they'd move to Mexico or Chile or Peru. They'll do what any industry does. They'll go to where the production's cheaper. I mean, that's where China got the benefit of, anything you order, it's probably made in China on the label uh, because it's cheaper there. And that's the only industry we have in Canada if you want to work is you can be work on the crew and work on some American films and hope and pray that our dollar does not go up. Because if it does, your career's dead. Because we don't have one here. We do not have a film industry here. Got a lot of people out there, talented people making interesting films that have nowhere to show.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's on that black note.
Do you know when Allie will have this documentary done?
I have no idea. I think she's got a long road to go. I mean, trying to raise money on something that's Canadian is no easy task. So, but I know she just let me know that she interviewed Mark Irwin, great cameraman who moved to the States about about 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago. But great cameraman, did great stuff here. And I worked with him a lot when he was getting started. And he went on, he shot a lot of American films. Uh, anyway, I think she interviewed him on, I don't think, I know she interviewed him on the weekend. He let me know that she came by and he had a great time talking about, moving down there rather than staying here.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna reach out to her again, see if I can get her back on here. But there's some people I think I'd like to send her way. If she hasn't thought of them already, maybe she has.
She's
But I'm pretty
got a pretty big list. I know but every week I just interviewed this person and that person and so forth. And occasionally I'll think of a name of somebody who's particularly old that she should get to as soon as possible.
well, one person I'm gonna throw at her is Paul Lynch because I'm pretty sure Paul Lynch would say yes. If he said yes to doing the little thing with Blood Opera, I'm pretty sure he'd be open to this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he's a great guy. He shot a film here with Bo Derek, you know. Had a great chat with him. So I'm more than certain that he would do it. But yeah, there's a lot of great Canadian talent out there, and I wish they would get highlighted better. But like I said, they do the American films, and you don't think of these people so much as being Canadian anymore because they're so encased in that. And not that the states don't give a good product, but
One of the great pioneers of film. Well, a number of them came out of Canada. Louis B. Mayer came out of New Brunswick.
oh gee,
Uh, Max Sennett, the guy who started
and yep,
Joplin. Yeah, so yeah, you go back through Hollywood history. And the biggest star of the silent era was Mary Pickford out of Toronto. America's sweetheart, they called her. So yeah, there's a long history of Canadians going south and getting famous down there.
yeah, yeah. Well, what's up for next for you besides Ali's film? You got anything in the works, or are
I
you just
always working on small films in the basement, just for myself and my friends. So I have a good time doing that. And
are you gonna shoot a video on the critters?
uh, no, I don't have the patience to do natural, those nature films, and you have to be really patient. And no, I don't think so.
That they'll just work for scraps.
That's true. Well, it's been great talking to you, Greg.
You know what? It's always great talking to you, Bruce, and I saw that photo of Ali on there working on that, and I like, and then she had mentioned you in that post, and like I said, I got to reach out to her and see if I can get her back on here. But I thought I should do an update with Bruce, and have him back on here and see how I remember the backyard critters last time we talked. So see how that's going.
All right.
Yeah.
Always good to talk to you.
It's always good to talk to you. I will talk to James Ponce and see if he'll bring you to Frightmare in the Falls. I
All
think that
right.
would be, yeah.
Well, I'm
Uh,
around.
I'll let him know because I mean, why not? Uh, you haven't done that one. Actually, I don't even think Leslie Donaldson's done that one. So there's all kinds of nearby talent that wouldn't take them long to get there. So I think it'd be a great idea. It's a nice event. It's bigger than Horror-rama, but Horror-rama has a special place for me because it was my first one.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah. And I've done four of them all at that little Buddhist temple there on Bathurst Street. So and that's something else that Lewis was telling me that they're thinking about doing in a different location.
Yeah,
So
I heard they're gonna go out to Oakville or Burlington, somewhere like that. So,
yeah, okay. See how that goes. And yeah,
all right,
always fun. Well, you go out and you check on the critters.
I will do that.
Bruce, it's wonderful talking to you and best of luck to you and I hope to see you next time I'm in Toronto.
Okay, all the best, Greg.
All right, take care and God bless.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.